we'll be able to find out who these people were and what it is that they actually said for 20 long years. Can you think of anything that is a greater, a more flagrant contravention of the basic norms of justice, which are part and parcel of every civilization that has existed on this planet from times immemorial? Now, it is that same fundamental deficiency that vitiates the latest footage that has been exposed. So there is a consistent pattern. The next point is the timing. That is also very much an integral part of the pattern that is so conspicuous. When did this Channel 4 footage, not the last one, but the previous material, when did it first appear? It appeared literally on the eve of a crucial meeting in Brussels, where the European Commission was making a decision with regard to the extension of GSP Plus benefits for Sri Lanka. Literally hours before that crucial meeting took place in Brussels, this material was exposed. The second time it happened was, again, quite literally, on the eve of my meeting as this country's foreign minister with my counterpart in the United Kingdom, the Right Honourable William Hague, the British Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs. That was the second time. As I was in London, I was waiting to have this meeting, and this was splashed across the media. The third time was when His Excellency President Mahinda Rajapaksa, with Mr. Larry Pirotunga and myself, we were all there. His Excellency was there to address the Oxford Union. The President was physically on British soil when the third exposure took place. Now we have the fourth. What is significant about the timing of the fourth manifestation? What is significant is that it happened while the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association was meeting in London. There was this captive audience, representatives from all four corners of the globe. All representatives of the Commonwealth were present in London at the time this material was exposed. Now, who in their senses would believe that this is not an unexplored agenda, in the words of Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa? Is this a genuine struggle focused on human rights? Or is it something completely different? Is it a naked, overt, unrepentant political agenda? Yet another thing happened. About 5 days ago, there was an article that was published in the Johannesburg Times. The author was Louise Arthur, at present the head of the International Crisis Group. She was the predecessor of Navi Pillay in the position of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. That letter is worth reading. It is preposterous. It contains clear invective and overriding animus against the President's family. South Africa is chosen because of the diaspora there, particularly in the Durban area. That article published by Louise Arthur in the Johannesburg Times, at this moment, while all these other events are taking place, I say, is neither more nor less than a call for regime change in Sri Lanka. It is a call for regime change. How is that compatible with the verdict of Sri Lanka's own population at every election which has been held in the recent past, including the elections that were concluded just a few days ago? The other point that is worth making is that all this propaganda flies in the teeth, absolutely, it flies in the teeth of testimony which is far more valuable, given by people who were present on the ground here throughout these events. Neil Bune was here. The Secretary of Defense referred to the resident coordinator of the United Nations system. He was here. He has expressed his views in writing. It is there in black and white. And that is flatly contradicted by the attitudes that are encapsulated in the Darusman report. Which would you believe? The views of people who have never been here during that period, who are looking at us from across the Atlantic, or people working not for us, not for the government of Sri Lanka, but for the UN system, in all conscience and honesty, committing to paper their own impressions and perspectives about contemporary events, events taking place at that very moment in this country. Which of these two would command greater confidence and credibility? Then the other thing I want to say is that the government of Sri Lanka is committed to doing many of the things that we are urged to do. There's no need for pressure. There's nobody more concerned about the well-being of our people than the lawfully elected president and the government of this country. We are moving rapidly towards decisions which will be announced shortly regarding the emergency. We don't need people breathing down our necks to do this. These are value judgments to be made by Sri Lankan leaders responding to the aspirations of the sovereign people of Sri Lanka. Every week, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa has given me some figures in recent conversations. Every week, there are large numbers of ex-combatants who are being released and being reintegrated into society. As a former Vice-Chancellor of one of Sri Lanka's largest universities, it is a matter of immense pride and satisfaction to me that some of these youth who had taken up arms are today being educated in the universities of the Republic, including a few students who have been admitted to follow courses of study in the medical faculties in Sri Lanka's university system. Are we getting sufficient credit for it? Is there any justice or objectivity in the evaluations that are being made? Restrictions that were a necessity at a time of turbulence are being lifted in respect of journalists who wish to visit the northern province of Sri Lanka. Today, nothing remains, absolutely nothing remains of the restrictions that were imposed in the northern waters with regard to fishing. These have not been done in response to pressure. No duress, no coercion, no intimidation is required. Nobody needs to threaten us with economic sanctions, with dire consequences of various kinds. This is a proud nation. It is a nation that has the courage of its convictions. It is doing what it believes to be right. And these are steps that we are taking at the right time, in a balanced and measured way, in response to the wishes of the people of this nation. Up to now, if you ask me, what is the government's achievement, I would reply that the signal achievements of the government are in three fields. First and foremost, the remarkable progress which has been made in respect of humanitarian issues. A very well-known personality in the international arena who had a great deal to do with events in the former Yugoslavia told me that what this country under President Rajapaksa's leadership has achieved in less than 2 years took the better part of 12 years to be accomplished in the European situation. So I would claim that with every justification as an achievement that the government and the people of Sri Lanka can be proud of. Then look at the remarkable achievements with regard to economic and social development. The resuscitation of the economy of the North with the sharpest possible focus, unprecedented in the history of the island, with regard to infrastructure, roads, irrigation systems, the power sector, schools, hospitals, all of that. And do not forget the third element, which has to do with political issues. The events of the previous week were an unmitigated triumph for democracy. These are areas where the suffrage, the franchise, had almost died. The LTTE had annihilated the legitimate, the democratic Tamil leadership, leaving behind a huge hiatus, a vacuum which has to be filled. In Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu, 65% of voters cast their ballots. In Punarim, it was as high as 78%. So this was the voice of the people of those areas expressed in a democratic process which cannot, by any rational standard, be impugned with any degree of credibility. The government of Sri Lanka, under the direction of His Excellency the President, is now engaged in substantive negotiations with Tamil political parties. The next round takes place in exactly 3 days' time. It takes place on Thursday. There is a trajectory, logical, sound, eminently sensible, which the government is committed to. We propose within the next few months to complete the local government elections and then in the northern province, as we did in the east, graduate to the holding of provincial council elections. All of this we are doing on our own because the government believes that these are the right things to do. So I don't wish to address you much longer. I want to conclude on this note. All of this, I tell you in a spirit of candor, is the result of a huge investment of pecuniary resources accumulated over the decades, money, time, energy, organization, coordination by a minuscule segment of the diaspora. I'm not hurling that accusation at the diaspora as a whole. This is a minuscule segment of the diaspora, but vicious, unrelenting. What is their aim? Their aim is to stultify all the progress that is being made, especially in the northern part of Sri Lanka, with regard to uplifting the lives and the conditions of the people who have suffered so much during a 30-year conflict and are now beginning to emerge from the darkness of that era into the light and the hope of the future. As somebody who has to deal with these issues almost on a daily basis, I know the impact of this on deflecting the energies of the government of Sri Lanka. Every day there is a fresh problem. Nobody is complaining about that. That is in the nature of government. That is fine. But it is at the expense of the things that matter to the people of this country, in particular to the people of the North. It is an attempt to destroy all that is being done to ensure the well-being of those people. It is an attempt, despicable, worthy of condemnation in the strongest possible terms, to engage the government in an attempt continually, every day, every night, to protect the national interest of this country against these reckless and baseless allegations. I therefore, in all humility, ask the international community to extend to us the hand of friendship. What we want is goodwill, cooperation, friendship, to carry this country forward at a critical juncture in our contemporary history. We do not want hostility, confrontation, polarization, or judgmental posture. All that has been said here this morning is nothing less than a fervent appeal to the international community to do justice by Sri Lanka, to listen to Sri Lanka's voice, to look at the evidence dispassionately and objectively, and to help us to carry this country forward into a bright and prosperous future. Thank you.